The sun hung low over the horizon, painting the sky in strokes of orange and gold. 7-year-old Lily ran barefoot through the tall grass that separated her house from the edge of the woods. Her mother always told her not to go too far, but Lily never felt afraid out there. She loved the soft rustle of leaves, the songs of birds, and the way the light danced between branches like it was trying to play with her. That day felt different. The woods were quieter than usual. Even the birds seemed to hold their breath. As Lily skipped past the blackberry bushes and down the slope behind the shed, something caught her attention, a sound she couldn't place. It wasn't loud, just a faint, raspy breathing. Curious, she stepped closer to a patch of trees she'd never explored before, and then she saw it. At first, she thought it was just a pile of fur, but as she took another cautious step forward, the shape moved slightly. Her heart jumped. Lying just beyond a fallen log was a massive gray wolf. Its coat was matted and dirt-stained. One of its front paws was bent at an odd angle, swollen and covered in dried mud. The animal looked exhausted, its chest rising and falling heavily. But what stopped Lily in her tracks wasn't the size of the creature, it was its eyes. They weren't wild or threatening. They were full of pain and something else, something that looked a lot like fear. Lily's breath caught in her throat. Every story she had ever heard about wolves flashed through her mind. Her parents had warned her, wolves are dangerous. If you see one, run. But her feet didn't move. Neither did the wolf. Minutes passed, or maybe just seconds. The forest around them stood perfectly still. Lily could hear her own heartbeat. Then, something unexpected happened. The wolf's head tilted just slightly, and its ears twitched, not backward in aggression, but forward, like it was listening. It didn't growl. It didn't bare its teeth. It just watched her. Lily blinked. She was trembling, but not from fear. She had always believed that animals could sense people's feelings, and somehow, in that moment, she felt sure the wolf knew she didn't want to hurt it. I won't hurt you, she whispered, though her voice was barely more than a breath. The wolf didn't react. It closed its eyes for a moment, as if the pain was too much to bear, then opened them again. Its tongue hung dry from its mouth. That's when Lily noticed how thirsty it looked. She remembered the bottle of water she had left on the porch earlier that day. Without thinking twice, she turned and sprinted back toward the house, weaving through the tall grass, her mind racing. Her parents were in the kitchen, talking about weekend plans. Lily slipped past the window, grabbed the half-full bottle, and rummaged through her backpack for a small plastic bowl she used to feed her cat during outdoor tea parties. Within a minute, she was running again. Back at the log, the wolf was still there, still watching, still breathing, still hurting. Lily crouched down a safe distance away and slowly poured the water into the bowl. Then she slid it forward across the mossy ground, her hand shaking just a little. The wolf lifted its head. For a second, it looked like it wouldn't move. Then, slowly, with a groan barely louder than the wind, it stretched its neck and lapped the water with a dry tongue. Lily didn't move. She didn't blink. She just watched. And right then, something changed between them. In the silence of the woods, two very different hearts understood each other without a single word. The wolf drank slowly, as if every drop needed effort. Its tongue curled gently over the edge of the bowl, drawing in the water without splashing. Lily sat frozen, just a few feet away, afraid that even the sound of her breathing might break the fragile moment between them. She studied its face, expecting something fierce. But the closer she looked, the more she saw something else entirely: exhaustion, pain, and maybe even relief. The kind of relief that comes when someone realizes they are not alone. When the wolf stopped drinking, it lifted its head and looked directly at her again. Lily's breath caught in her throat. Her heart pounded so hard she could feel it in her ears. But she didn't look away. "It's okay," she whispered, though she wasn't sure if she was speaking to the wolf or to herself. "You're gonna be okay." The wolf blinked slowly, almost like a nod. Then it lowered its head back to the ground, resting its snout on its front legs. Its breathing remained slow and shallow, but there was a difference now. It didn't seem as tense. Lily couldn't explain it, but she felt like the wolf had let its guard down just a little. The bowl was nearly empty. Drops clung to the plastic, and the wolf's whiskers were wet. Lily reached for her water bottle and refilled the bowl without moving closer. She slid it again, her fingers brushing the moss beneath her. As the wolf lapped up more water, she finally dared to glance around. The forest still felt strangely quiet, as if it too were watching. She knew she shouldn't stay much longer. The sun had dipped lower, and soon her mom would be calling her in. But her feet refused to move. For several minutes, Lily sat quietly, cross-legged on the forest floor. She didn't speak, didn't try to pet the wolf, and didn't try to touch it. She just stayed, and the wolf didn't seem to mind. Eventually, it lifted its head again, and for a moment, the two stared at each other in stillness. Then, as slowly as before, the wolf pushed itself up, shifting its weight to keep pressure off the injured paw. It winced, but didn't growl. Lily flinched anyway, but stayed seated. The wolf took one shaky step back, then another. It paused, looked at her one last time, and then disappeared into the trees. Its large body slipped between the shadows like a ghost, quiet and sure, despite the limp. Lily didn't move right away. She just sat there, heart racing, the empty bowl still between them like a sign of peace. When she finally stood, the forest had grown dim. Long shadows stretched between the trees, and the first hint of evening air cooled her arms. She picked up the bowl and water bottle, brushing off a few leaves. As she turned to head back, she looked over her shoulder one last time, half expecting to see the wolf still watching. But it was gone. At home, dinner was already on the table. Her mother asked where she had been, and Lily simply shrugged. Just playing, she said, sliding the bowl and bottle into her backpack. Her father reminded her not to wander too far, and she promised she wouldn't. That night, Lily lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Her window was cracked open, and the wind made the curtains sway gently. She listened for sounds in the dark: an owl, a breeze, or maybe even the soft footfalls of a wolf returning to rest. She didn't know if it would come back. But deep down, in the quiet corner of her heart, Lily felt something unexplainable. She had helped something wild, and somehow she sensed that the story wasn't over. Not yet. The next morning arrived with soft golden light spilling through Lily's bedroom window. Birds chirped outside, and everything felt as ordinary as any other day, except to Lily, it wasn't. She had barely touched her breakfast. Her parents chatted about grocery lists and weather forecasts, but her mind was fixed on one thought: the wolf. She kept glancing out the window toward the woods, her stomach twisting with a mix of worry and hope. As soon as she was allowed, she slipped on her shoes, stuffed the empty bowl into her backpack, and hurried outside. She followed the same narrow path she'd taken the day before, her eyes scanning the ground for any sign of the animal. Her heart beat faster the closer she got to the fallen log. But when she arrived, her heart sank. The forest floor where the wolf had been resting was empty. The log was the same, the moss untouched, but there were no paw prints, no fur, no traces of blood. Even the indentation in the grass had softened overnight. It was as if the wolf had never been there at all. Lily knelt beside the log, unsure of what to do. She placed the bowl on the ground again, just in case. Her fingers lingered on it for a moment before she stood and took a few steps forward, peering deeper into the woods. Nothing. Just silence, and trees, and shadows that swayed gently with the breeze. A lump formed in her throat. Maybe the wolf had moved on. Maybe it had found a better hiding place, or maybe it hadn't made it through the night. The thought made her chest tighten, but she shook it away. No, she had seen the strength in its eyes. It had gotten up. It had walked. It had survived worse. Still, something didn't feel finished. Something inside her whispered that the wolf wasn't truly gone. That evening, Lily tried to act normal. She helped her mother set the table and picked at her food, all while her thoughts drifted back to the quiet clearing. Her parents didn't ask much. She was always a quiet child, but her mother noticed her silence. "You all right, sweet pea?" she asked, tucking a strand of hair behind Lily's ear. Lily nodded, forcing a small smile. "Just tired." Later that night, long after her parents had gone to bed, Lily sat at her bedroom window with the curtains pulled aside. The moon was rising over the trees, casting pale silver light across the backyard. everything was still. Until it wasn't. A soft thump echoed from the porch. Not loud, but solid, like something had landed, not fallen. Lily's eyes widened. She pressed her face to the screen, peering downward. She couldn't see clearly in the dark, but there was movement, something low and heavy stepping away from the front door. Then it was gone, swallowed by the shadows. She waited a few minutes before tiptoeing through the house. The floors creaked under her socks, but she didn't stop. She unlocked the front door as quietly as she could and stepped onto the porch. That's when she saw it. Lying on the welcome mat were 3 items to freshly caught fish, glistening in the moonlight, and a pinnacone so perfectly shaped it looked like it had been placed with care. Next to them, in the damp wood of the porch, was a single, clear paw print, large, precise, still wet from the dew. Lily crouched down slowly, her breath catching in her chest. Her hands trembled as she touched the edge of the mat. He had come back. She didn't see him, but she didn't need to. The paw print said more than words ever could. The wolf had remembered her kindness. And now he had returned it. The fish were fresh, so fresh that they were still slightly cool to the touch. Lily crouched beside the mat, staring in awe at the strange offering. The pinnacone lay neatly beside the fish, almost as if it had been placed deliberately, like a signature. For a few moments, she didn't move. She simply stared, heart thudding in her chest, half expecting the wolf to step back out of the shadows. But the night remained still. Lily gently picked up the pinnacone and turned it over in her hand. It was smooth and firm, its pattern oddly beautiful. She held it to her chest like it was something precious. Then she scooped the fish into an empty bowl from the porch and tiptoed back inside. She left the paw print untouched. The next morning, she sat at the breakfast table unusually quiet. Her parents were reading their phones when her mom finally looked up. "Lily, did you leave something outside last night?" she asked, her brow furrowed. There were fish on the doormat. Lily hesitated. She had practiced what she would say, but even now it sounded unbelievable. "I think someone left them for me," her dad chuckled. "What kind of someone?" "Fisherman elves." Her mom glanced out the window. No footprints, just a big animal print. Might have been a dog, or maybe a coyote. Lily lowered her gaze. "It wasn't a dog," she whispered, almost too quietly for them to hear. Her mom gave her a puzzled look, but said nothing more. After breakfast, Lily slipped outside. The paw print had faded slightly in the morning sun, but it was still visible. She crouched beside it and gently traced the edges with her finger. Something had changed. It wasn't just about the wolf anymore. It was a connection, a secret, a promise between her and something wild. That afternoon, she returned to the clearing. In the woods, the log was still there, moss-covered and silent. She set down the pinnacone beside it, gently and with care, just as the wolf had done. Then she poured more water into the bowl and waited. Even though she didn't expect him to return so soon, the forest was calm. A bird landed nearby, cocking its head at her before fluttering away. The wind moved softly through the trees, whispering over the grass. Hours passed, but the wolf didn't come. Still, Lily wasn't disappointed. She wasn't even worried. Somehow, she just knew he was watching. That evening, her mother found her drawing by the window. On the page was a sketch of a large, gentle-eyed wolf with a bandaged paw and a girl holding a bowl of water. Pine trees framed the background, and a single pinnacone set between them. "That's beautiful," her mom said softly, kneeling beside her. "Is it a story?" Lily paused, then nodded. "A true one." Her mother smiled, brushing a hand over Lily's hair. "Well, if it's true, I hope there's more to come." Lily didn't answer. She just smiled quietly and kept drawing. That night, she left a scarf out on the porch, a small, old one she didn't wear anymore. She placed it where the fish had been, as her own gift. Not food, not a tool, just something soft, something warm. In the morning, it was gone. No paw prints this time, no fish, just a white feather in its place. It wasn't about survival anymore. It was something else, something unspoken, a language without words, a bond that could only be formed between two souls that had looked past fear and found something far more powerful. Trust. And trust, Lily was beginning to understand, always gives back in quiet. extraordinary ways. The days that followed felt like part of a dream Lily didn't want to wake up from. Every morning, she checked the porch before breakfast. Sometimes there was nothing. Other times, small tokens appeared: an unusual stone, a long feather, a piece of tree bark shaped like a heart. Once, she found a broken necklace she had lost weeks earlier during a walk near the stream. It was lying on the doormat, clean and coiled like someone had placed it there with care. Her parents began to notice. "Are the neighborhood squirrels leaving you presents now?" Her dad joked one evening. Lily shrugged with a small smile. Maybe. Her mother narrowed her eyes a bit more seriously. "You haven't been feeding any animals, have you?" Lily hesitated. "Not feeding, just helping." Her mother gave her a long look but said nothing more. Maybe part of her didn't want to ask too many questions. Or maybe, deep down, she sensed there was more to the story than Lily could explain. Lily continued visiting the clearing each afternoon. She always brought fresh water, and sometimes she brought bits of food: a few apple slices, some bread, or boiled chicken wrapped in cloth. She never saw the wolf eat, but the food always disappeared by the next day. Still, he hadn't shown himself since the night of the fish. Until one gray morning, when the sky was heavy with clouds and the forest felt hushed, Lily arrived at the clearing with her backpack and paused at the edge. Something was different. The air smelled damp, and there was a strange stillness to everything, as if even the trees were holding their breath. Then she saw movement near the shadows. The wolf stepped out from behind the log. His paw was still tender, but he moved more easily than before. His fur looked cleaner, and his eyes, those intelligent, searching eyes, were locked on hers. Lily didn't move. She stood completely still, heart thudding wildly, but not from fear. Slowly, she lowered her backpack and opened it. She took out a soft piece of cloth, part of her old pajama sleeve dampened with warm water. Then she sat down on the grass. The wolf came closer. Not fast, not threatening. Each step was slow and careful, his body language alert but calm. He stopped just a few feet away, his gaze fixed on her hands. Lily held out the cloth in her palm, resting it on the mossy ground between them. "It's okay," she whispered. "I just want to help." To her amazement, the wolf stepped forward again, until his nose was inches from her hand. He sniffed the cloth, then her fingers. His breath was warm. For a brief moment, his fur brushed against her wrist. He sat down. Not far, not close, just enough to show he was listening. Lily gently reached out with the cloth, her hands trembling. She wiped a spot near his shoulder where dried blood still clung to his fur. The wolf didn't flinch. He closed his eyes. She cleaned as much as she could, moving slowly, always watching for signs that he'd had enough. When she finished, she leaned back slightly, giving him space. And then, something unexpected happened. The wolf took a step closer and rested his head lightly against her knee. Lily froze, tears stinging her eyes. She didn't pet him. She didn't speak. She just sat there, heart wide open, as the wild creature trusted her enough to lean into her. It didn't last long. Within a minute, the wolf stood again and vanished into the trees. But it was enough. More than enough. That moment, soft and fleeting, had said everything. The rest of the week passed like a quiet dream. Lily returned to the clearing every afternoon, and while the wolf didn't always appear, she knew he had been there. The food disappeared. The bowl sometimes had new leaves or feathers tucked beside it. Once, she even found a smooth piece of bark with claw marks for lines carefully scratched into the wood. Evenly spaced, almost like a symbol, she kept it in a box beneath her bed, along with the pinnacone, the feather, and the heart-shaped bark. It was her own secret collection, proof of something no one else had seen. Something she still wasn't ready to explain. At school, her friends talked about cartoons and new backpacks. Lily stayed quiet, her thoughts always drifting back to the woods. Her grades stayed fine, but she started drawing more sketches of forests, eyes glowing in trees, a small girl and a silent shadow beside her. One Saturday morning, as clouds rolled across the sky and the wind picked up, Lily sat on the porch steps in her raincoat, a fresh cloth and apples beside her. She hoped he might come early today. That's when she noticed something strange. There were scratches on the side of the porch, not just random ones for again. Like the ones on the bark, they were shallow but clear, right near where she usually sat. Her heart skipped. He had been here again, not to leave food, not to take anything, just to let her know. That afternoon, she returned to the clearing with a notebook and a pencil. She didn't bring food this time, she just wanted to be there. She sat by the log and began to write. It wasn't a letter exactly, more like a journal entry written to someone who couldn't read, but might somehow understand. She wrote about how her heart had felt the day she first saw him, how she still remembered the pain in his eyes, the heavy way he had collapsed. She wrote about the way he had leaned his head on her knee, how it had made her feel seen. Chosen. The wind rustled through the trees. Lily looked up. He was there, standing just at the edge of the clearing, watching her. No limping this time. His paw had healed more than she expected, though he still favored it slightly. She didn't move. The wolf stepped forward, one cautious step at a time, until he was close enough to hear her breathing. Then, without hesitation, he sat beside her. Not across the clearing, not near the log, beside her. She didn't reach out. She didn't speak. She just turned slightly, holding out the notebook so he could see the drawings. He didn't react, but somehow, she felt he was looking. Together, they sat in stillness. The forest moved around them, alive with wind and birdsong. But in that clearing, everything felt still, safe. When he stood, she didn't stop him. She only whispered, "Thank you for coming." But this time, he didn't walk away. He turned slightly and looked toward the deeper part of the woods. Then he looked back at her. Lily furrowed her brow. "What is it?" The wolf took a step, then paused, glancing back again. He wanted her to follow. Her heart leapt. Her legs moved before her mind caught up. She followed him into the shadows, deeper than she had ever gone, and somehow, without knowing why, she wasn't afraid. Lily had never gone this far into the forest before. The trees grew taller here, older. Their trunks were thick and gnarled, their roots crawling over rocks and earth like silent sentries. The air felt heavier, cooler, and filled with a kind of stillness that made her every step sound louder than it should have. The wolf moved ahead in slow, sure strides, glancing back every few moments to make sure she was still with him. There was no fear in his eyes, only purpose. Lily followed without hesitation, not because she knew where they were going, but because deep inside, she felt she was meant to go. The deeper they walked, the more the forest changed. Moss carpeted the ground in wide patches. Strange flowers bloomed in the shadows, tiny blue ones she had never seen before. The air was filled with the scent of pine, damp earth, and something else, something wild and old. After what felt like forever, the wolf stopped. They stood at the edge of a wide clearing. In the center was a fallen tree covered in moss, hollowed. In the middle, like nature had carved it into a cradle, round it, the ground was littered with old bones, not fresh, but clean and white, like time had smoothed them down. Small animal skulls, bird feathers, and the remains of nests long abandoned. Lily stepped closer. Her breath caught in her chest. Inside the hollow log, nestled in the moss, were three tiny shapes. Wolf pups. Their eyes blinked open at her approach, bright, golden, just like his. They didn't bark. They didn't growl. They only watched. Lily looked at the large wolf, realization spreading slowly over her face. "This is why you came to the lake," she whispered. "You weren't just hurt. You were trying to protect them." He looked at her, then stepped aside, allowing her closer. She crouched carefully by the hollow, lowering herself to the pup's level. They were so small, barely the size of house cats. Their fur patchy and soft. One gave a tiny sneeze. Another pawed at her shoelace. Lily smiled, tears prickling behind her eyes. Everything made sense now. The wolf hadn't been running from something. He had been trying to survive long enough to get back here. He had trusted her, risked revealing himself because he needed someone to help him make it home. And now, he was showing her the result of that trust. She looked up at him, and he held her gaze. There was no sound in the clearing except the rustling of the trees and the soft snuffling of the pups. Then, without warning, the wolf stepped forward and gently nudged one of the pups toward her. Lily didn't know what it meant at first, but then the pup toddled over and curled up beside her leg. resting its head against her ankle as if it had known her forever. The wolf had brought her here for more than a thank you. He had brought her into his world, into his family. A branch snapped, somewhere deep in the woods, and the wolf immediately lifted his head, ears alert. He looked toward the sound, then back at her. It was time to go. He gently picked up one of the other pups in his mouth and nudged the third with his nose. Lily stood slowly, her heart still swelling with emotion. She followed him back to the path, the little pup trailing behind her, glancing up at her now and then as if trying to memorize her face. When they reached the edge of the familiar clearing, the wolf stopped. He turned back once, his eyes meeting hers one last time, and then quiet as a shadow he vanished into the trees, the pups close behind. Lily stood there for a long time, hand over her heart, the forest holding its breath around her. She didn't know if she would ever see them again, but somehow she felt like this wasn't the end. The forest felt different after that day. It wasn't just the quiet or the way the light filtered through the leaves. It was something deeper, like a secret had been shared, a bond had been formed, and a promise made. Lily returned home with the small wolf pup nestled safely in her jacket. Her parents watched in stunned silence when she walked in, her eyes shining with a mixture of excitement and exhaustion. "How did you find it?" her mother asked softly. Still trying to understand, Lily smiled, brushing a stray lock of hair from her face. "He led me. The wolf, he trusted me enough to show me." Her father shook his head in disbelief but offered a gentle smile. "Well, I guess we have a new family member." The pup yawned, tiny sharp teeth showing, and then curled up in Lily's lap as she sat down at the kitchen table. That night, as the house grew quiet and the stars began to twinkle outside, Lily thought about everything that had happened. The wolf she found injured and alone, the gifts left on the porch, the moments of trust shared in the forest. And now, this tiny life resting peacefully with her. She realized that sometimes the most unlikely friendships can change everything. That kindness, even in its smallest forms, offering water, a scarf, a gentle touch, can heal wounds deeper than any medicine. The next weeks passed in a blur of new routines. Lily's family built a small shelter near the edge of their backyard for the pup, who they named Ash, inspired by the dark shade of his fur. Ash was lively, curious, and cautious around people, but he never strayed far from Lily. Slowly, his trust grew. The real wolf never returned, but Lily sometimes found new paw prints near the edge of the woods. Sometimes she found small tokens left on the porch pinnacones, feathers, a smooth stone, and she knew he was watching, still connected in his own wild way. School friends noticed Lily's glow, her quieter confidence. She never shared the whole story. Some things were too magical to explain, but she carried it with her like a secret strength. One afternoon, while sitting beneath the old oak tree in her backyard, Ash curled up beside her, head resting on her knee. The wind rustled the leaves, and for a moment, she imagined she heard a distant howl carried on the breeze. A reminder that even in the wild, even in the unknown, kindness creates bonds that last. That sometimes a little girl and an injured wolf can change each other's worlds forever. And that's exactly what had happened.